Utah has done a tremendous job of recruiting the home state of Utah. We're talking about some of the top players from Utah coming to the University of Utah, as well as some of the transfers that Utah has added on today's Locked On Utes.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen every single day. We are available on all platforms, including YouTube and wherever you may get your podcast. If this is your first time listening to our show, make sure you like and subscribe. Love interacting with you, all of you, in the comments on YouTube, as well as on social media, where you can follow our show on X at Locked On Utes. Today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On. It's all caps for $20 off your first purchase. My name is JT Wistrcill, former intern inside the University of Utah Athletic Department. Excited to be joined on today's show by Dane Stewart, who covers high school football and just high school, follows all these guys, keeps up with them for KSL Sports Rewind. Also, fun fact, the first person I ever called a game with live on the air, so we'll never forget Dane giving me that opportunity. Dane, so great to have you on with us. And I want to dive into it right away, talking about some of these star high school football athletes that are coming to Utah. You guys have heard us talk about Isaiah Garcia, and Isaac Wilson at length. So we're going to focus more on the under-the-radar guys. And I think the first one I want to talk about is a guy in Davis Andrews, a 6'2 safety coming over from American Fork. I got an opportunity to call his games a couple times over the last few years. I mean, just the amount of touchdowns this guy's able to save, the massive plays he's able to make. And I know he's got great hands too, because he used to be he would play receiver a lot at American Fork too, Dane. I feel like this is a guy with a chance to be one of the next star safeties at the University of Utah.
Yeah, I think this guy's going to be a stud. He's a guy that I know Utah wanted badly, but they were in a recruiting battle. Obviously, he had offers from Notre Dame and others. Big-time, high-profile kid. And if you want to talk about his impact, JT, all you have to do is look at this season. You know, the first go-around, they play Skyridge in the regular season. They win that game in overtime. It's actually Andrews, I think, who had the overtime game-winning touchdown reception in that game. And then he does not play in that semifinal game, and that defense was out of sorts. Missing their safety. You want to talk about his impact. You can just look at those two games. Very different outcomes for them defensively. He flies around. He's a big kid. And when you talk to the kid, super humble, love the kid. He's a flat out athlete. You can play him at multiple positions. I don't expect Utah to do that. But when you talk about a next big time safety, he's going to be all that and more for Utah. I know that staff was thrilled to get him. I think he's going to be a big time impact player for that Utah D. And I think he's one that is going to really shine with the scheme that they run up there. You're going to see and hear from Davis Andrews a lot.
Yeah, Morgan Scally, Sharif Shaw doing a great job with the defensive backs, and Davis can cover, he can tackle, he can do it all. I'm really excited to see what his future holds as well. And we know Davis is fantastic. And I mentioned kind of off the top of the show, we've heard so much about Isaiah Garcia and Isaac Wilson that in some ways, Cash Dillon is flying under the radar. And this is an extremely talented edge defender. You talk about a really good athlete, 6'5", 220. He's got the bend, got some pass rush moves as well. Maybe he needs to put on just a little more weight, get a little stronger, things of that nature as well. But I think Dillon, I don't think, and the same thing, right? Like Andrews, when he does return, I believe he's going to serve his mission. He's going to be standing behind some really good players as well. So, and Dillon could be in a similar situation when he comes up to Utah too. But this is a guy to me who has tremendous upside, and I've seen him get it done already inside Rice Eccles Stadium as a state champion.
Yeah, Cash Dillon, you know, when I watch this kid play, he's like the guy who his motor never stops. Literally, like it is 120% on every play. You just sit there and you're like, does this guy ever get tired? It feels like he's just got a relentlessness about him. We had an opportunity to do a showcase over the course of the summer, and he was probably the best edge that we saw there. And this had some of the best edges across the state. He was absolutely just, again, 110% flying around every play. You talk about the size. He certainly has that. I think he's probably one of the better speed guys off the edge that we've seen in quite a while. We've had really good edge defenders in this state, but I think a lot of them have been kind of technique and physicality, and he's got that too. But just his energy and his burst, man, this kid I flew under the radar because at Corner Cane, they get all the love on the offensive side of the ball, and certainly deservedly so. But you talk about, their first and second levels the last couple of years, I put them up there with some of the best guys to come off of, that D line, that edge, or that linebacker crew the last 2-3 years at Corner Canyon. I think he has the ability, to your point, put on more weight, get a little more explosive at that next level. With his energy, his drive, that kid can be a problem for D1 offenses. He's going to be a fun one to keep eyes on.
Elijah Ellis from Layton Christian Academy, another guy too, I think has a chance to make that similar kind of impact. The upside, obviously, tremendously high with him. And speaking of upside, this next guy, Luke Bryant, coming out of Olympus, the safety, he was another one that I was really excited, and he was flying really under the radar. I felt like he was a little underrated by 24/7s as well in the rankings. I remember going out and getting to call his game way back in September, and he was another just tremendous athlete. Could play both sides of the ball, really. He stepped up at running back, the game I was at too, but was also elite receiver all season long. I think he'll end up pairing better as on the defensive side of the ball, but he's another guy that I think can be a game-changing safety for this team because he has the athleticism, and I know Utah has the coaching in place where I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see Bryant stepping up in Utah and making monster plays on third down for this Utah secondary.
The thing that I really love about the players that they have targeted in this class is their versatility, because you talk about a guy like Luke Bryant, he can play multiple positions on both sides of the ball. And I don't mean like, oh, he can play safety here and running back there. No, he could play running back, receiver, or quarterback. And he did take snaps at quarterback this last year for Olympus. He can go linebacker, safety. Like, he can do so many different things for you. And when we talk about a guy like Dane, right, it's the versatility and the athleticism, the love of the game, the understanding of the game to be able to do that I think makes them really special, not only in high school, but I think helps translate. So you're right. I think he's a kid that was really probably undervalued in terms of his recruiting profile and who was looking at him. But that kid, you look at what he did over the summer, you look at what he did in the season for Olympus the last 2 years, and then you talk to people at Olympus about him. Absolutely love this kid. He is going to be one of those guys that you're going to look back in 2-3 years and be like, I can't believe we got him, because I think he's got the ability to walk into a program like a Utah and absolutely shine. I don't know, he'll be playing as a freshman, but I think he's going to be one of those really gritty guys that you'll be hearing about in a freshman season, even if that's on the practice field. And then, and then as his time comes along, you'll see him making big time plays. I think Luke Bryant is one of the real sleepy gets in this class for Utah.
I agree. And you mentioned it, like eventually people will be excited and look back on that with Luke Bryant. There are a couple of guys, though, that everyone is already excited about for Utah. I teased them earlier. I've talked at length enough about them, but I am really curious, Dane. You've gotten to see Isaiah Garcia and Isaac Wilson up close so many times. You've watched them make this. Well, Isaac made the state championship. Then Garcia transfers over and joins him. And then they both win the state championship game this year. What do you just think of both their talents?
I didn't see Isaiah Garcia very much. And then this last summer, we went out to a summer showcase and I was watching the line and I see this kid. I'm like, man, that kid, he looks really broad. He's really tall. I wonder who that kid is. Come to find out, it was Isaiah Garcia. I was expecting a kid who had some baby weight on him. I was expecting a kid who was maybe on a bit of a high school eating plan. No, this guy looks like a man. And that was going into his senior season. He's got a heck of a frame, and I'm excited to see what Utah is able to put on him, because I think you get him in a nutrition class, you get him with a real orchestrated weight program. I think they're going to be able to build him exactly how they want in terms of his physique. And then you watch him play. That guy does not give up much. Such a great job on the outside. You talk about in high school, one of the reasons why the quarterback Isaac Wilson was able to have the year he was because of the line in front of him. And you look at guys like Jackson Powers Johnson, probably going to be a first-round draft pick in this year's NFL draft. Obviously, he played interior on that Corner Canyon line, but it's that same coaching that we've seen from BJ Camder and Ofa, getting these kids ready to be able to go to the next level and to be able to shine. And I think Isaiah Garcia is going to do just that. Again, I don't know how soon he'll start, but I'll tell you, looking at him before his senior season, it was like, that's a kid that's got a frame that you can build. His athleticism and his quickness is going to play very well at the next level. I think Utah has a multi-year starter in Isaiah Garcia. That kid is going to be, has the potential to be something really special for Utah's future offensive line.
He definitely does. It's going to be really exciting to see what he and all of these guys from the state of Utah can do up at the University of Utah. And, these guys all come in from high school to just come up to college. But there are some former Utah high school guys that kind of got lost in the shuffle because they went to other schools. And now they're going to be transferring to Utah. Want to talk about their abilities and what they could potentially provide to the University of Utah and discuss that with all of you in one moment. But first, want to talk to you about our friends at Game Time. You shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. They have great last-minute deals, all in price view from your seats, and their best price guarantee. Game Time truly takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. There are just so many great features about Game Time, whether you're talking about those flash deals, zone deals, or even view from your seats when you're just browsing in the app so you know what kind of a deal you're looking for. You can see all of that and so much more on Game Time. They have deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. It's the place to find last-minute seats. And the Game Time guarantee, which is also featured, allows you to get the best price if you find tickets in the same section and row for less. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase to take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Once again, terms apply, and create that account. That's LOCKEDON, capital L and O, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Also want to talk to you all about another sponsor of our episode of Locked On Utes, our friends at UCCU. Here's some exciting news. UCCU has just elevated their checking accounts by enhancing them with more benefits, more savings, and more online protections than ever before. A lot more. Paired with the most advanced comprehensive mobile banking tools, Elevated Checking is a must-have financial product packed with lifestyle security and financial benefits. The lifestyle benefits alone include cell phone protection, roadside assistance, telehealth, with 24/7 access to licensed health professionals with zero copay, and exclusive savings on travel, shopping, and dining. And Elevated Checking is free when you do any one of the following. Use your debit or credit card 15 times or more a month, or make a monthly direct deposit of $500 or more and maintain an average daily balance of $1,500. Otherwise, UCCU Elevated Checking is only $6 a month. Visit UCCU.com to open an Elevated Checking account online or stop by any branch to open an account. UCCU, love where you bank. Dane, we get so enamored, of course, with the new recruits coming up and the transfers we get excited about, like Carson Ryan is coming over from UCLA to join the University of Utah. But this was a Utah high school football player. He balled out at UCLA. Would have had even better production if the quarterback play was a little bit better, in my opinion, there. And we expect him to have a monster year too. Are you surprised by his collegiate success already? And not just what do you anticipate him doing at Utah, but what do you just remember about him back when he was in high school out in this state?
Yeah, I'm not surprised by what we've seen from him in his time at UCLA. This was a young man, played for multiple years at Timview, moved over to American Fork his senior year, had some injuries that senior year, so we weren't able to see him really complete his high school career like I think many had hoped for him to be able to have that big kind of stamp of a year. And so a lot of fans might not remember him a ton from his prep days. But what I do remember is he was a matchup problem. He was a big kid then, and he's a big kid now. And you look at him, he moves in ways that you don't think a guy his size should be able to move. He's got great hands. I love the versatility, and I love the move back to Utah. Come home, be a bit of a hometown hero kid for your hometown program, and bring all that talent back to a university that knows how to leverage the tight ends. And you think about the last couple of years with this Utah offense, they love their tight ends. And I think you're going to see production from that spot look like it did 2-3 years ago, where that becomes a real key pinnacle in the offense just because of his talent, his athleticism. Again, the hands, the size, the speed, the combination of what he brings. If I recall correctly, he was like a top 5 recruit from his position his senior year. And he would have been on a legendary AF team because he had like 2 or 3 tight ends with Noah Moeaki and others. But I think it's going to be a great fit for him. It's going to be a great fit for Utah. And I think you're going to have big time plays back at that tight end position on a regular basis with Carson Ryan in the lineup.
Yeah, him with Brant Keithy and Landon Kings got me excited just thinking about the potential already. Really excited to see what Ryan can do. And last year, Utah got a transfer from BYU, Logan Fano. Ended up being a great move for Utah, adding the edge defender. Injury cut his season short, but he was tremendous even coming off of that injury. And Utah liked adding a BYU edge defender so much once, they decided to do it twice. And they added John Henry Daly, now coming over, 6'5", 225, coming over to guy, got good length, good size just to me. And as someone I'm excited to see get up here, what do you remember about covering him back when he was in high school?
Yeah, he was a real problem on the outside. If I recall correctly, I think his junior year he had like 15 sacks. Senior year, I think it was over 20. Um, Great length, as you mentioned it, was always in the backfield. And even if he's not making a play, he was around the football. He was explosive off the edge. He was one of the first guys for me that was just like, holy cow, you pair him with a good defensive coordinator, which Lone Peak had in Ryan Denny. And all of a sudden, you just saw him really shine from his position. And obviously, Utah defense been the calling card for decades there. With Kyle and even going back before that. He's got all the skill set to be able to make that happen. One of the things I love, one of my favorite stories about John Henry Daly is his senior year, they had beat Skyridge in the regular season, and then they had to deal with him again in the playoffs. And I believe it was in the semifinal. Skyridge scored a touchdown late. I think it was in the last minute or so. And Skyridge had a kickoff to Lone Peak, and it was K.O. Hansen, I believe, who took a kickoff, I think it was 93, 94 yards to the house, like 28 seconds left to win it for Lone Peak. But the story is, it was John Henry Daly who went up to his special teams coach and said, hey guys, I'm seeing this. What if we made this tweak in our special teams coverage? They made that tweak and it ended up in freeing a lane for Hansen to take that game-winning kickback 90-plus yards. So the thing that you got to love about a John Henry Daly, it's not just about him. He was our defensive player of the year, and when we interviewed him, he was like, yeah, I mean, I had a good year, but watch out for my little brother. He's the first guy to be team first, wants the team to be successful. He's bought into the culture of a team. And I think he's going to bring not only that attitude, but you talk about the skill set, his length, athleticism. I think this is a real great get for Utah and one that will certainly have impact in their locker room and on the field for this defense going forward.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do on the field once he's up at the hill. And, same with just the theme of these transfers that we're adding, Dane. One thing that, when talking about all these guys, I get to do is I get to provide analysis on these guys and then talk about like what they're going to do for my team, the University of Utah. And you've done a great job breaking down all these guys, but Utah also added a guy from your team, the Vandals. Shout out Big Sky coming over from Idaho. Anthony Woods is going to be joining the Utah backfield. So I want you to wear both hats. You get your fan and analysis side on now, a little bit of a mixture of it. What do you think of that get for Utah?
I don't want to talk about it, JT. Look, here's the deal. I had a chance to see Anthony Woods for 2 years. You mentioned I'm a big Idaho Vandal fan. And, man, this kid, it's FCS ball, which I love FCS football. Great combination of speed and size. He's a guy who doesn't shy away from contact. He's not afraid to run between the tackles, but he's got the speed to get on the outside as well. And you watch him play, and he's almost like the perfect back running out of the backfield. I was really disappointed when I heard he was leaving, and it was like, and yet I'm not shocked because he does have the ability, I think, to go play at the D1 level. So I'm excited he's going to Utah. They leverage their back so well, and I think he'll do a great job of adding some additional depth into that backfield. I'm excited to see how well he translates. He's listed at, I think at Idaho, he was like 5'11", 180, 185, something like that.
Yep, you got it.
He plays a lot bigger than that.
Yes, he does.
And so that's one where for me, it's like you might look and be like, I don't know if he's got the size. He does have the size. He plays physical. I love his game. I'm going to miss watching him every week. Every time he touches it, you feel like he's got the opportunity to break a big one. And, for those who are like, well, that's FCS ball. We're in going into the Big 12. Idaho played Cal this last year. He averaged over 5 yards a touch against Cal. Yes. Now I know that Cal hasn't been what Cal was 20 years ago, but at its core, if you can get 5.5 yards a touch against Cal, and that was on 10 carries or so, he finished with 56 yards in that one. That can again, he translates to the D1 level. Now I don't know if he's going to be a 25-30 carry a guy for Utah, but I do think he brings great versatility, and I love his combination of speed and strength, and I'm going to miss watching him. So that one hurts, JT.
No, I know it does. But especially, like, you make a point. Like, when we're talking about Idaho was what, Dane? Were they top 5 team this year or top?
Yeah, I think the highest they got was 4th at one point.
So
they ended up losing in the FCS quarters.
We've seen plenty of middle-of-the-road Power 5 teams go to a North Dakota State or just some other top 5 caliber teams like that. Like that would be really Kibbie Dome. Get them in the Kibbie. That would be a really hard game for even some of these Big 12 teams. Because guess what? I'm not saying all Big 12 teams, I'm not saying they would even lose, but I'm just saying it would be a tough game because it's tough to play on the road, number one. And there's some really talented players when you get a top 5 FCS roster going against a middle of the tier Power 5. There's a reason no one wants to schedule North Dakota State, the perennial number 1 team. Idaho's in that top 5 position too. They're absolutely loaded. And I think that he's got a great chance to really do some big things, Dane.
And I'll add this too. Idaho's offensive line this last year is young and it was a little small. So my thing is you pair him against an offensive line that's got some size up front. Right. I'm really interested to see what he can do again, because I think he's got the talent to be able to play at that level. And then you mix, guys around him. And if Cam Rising's coming back and they've got an air attack, Idaho's been super balanced the last 2 years. It's what has helped him to be as successful as he's been. He ran for 1,100, 1,200 yards last year in his sophomore year. Yes. Anthony Woods did. So you pair an offensive line in front of him with a balanced offensive attack. And I think this kid, he can be a really good D1 back. So Idaho losses is Utah's gain. You're welcome, but I'm gonna miss watching them. So yeah, I guess I'll have to go up to Rice Eccles now.
Yes, yeah, I got to root for him a little bit as well. And I think I really think he's got a chance to be Utah's leading rusher. I'm not saying take that to the bank and book it, but I think he's got a really good shot, along with Mekhi Bernard mixed in there as well. And Jalen Glover still has a chance at that too. So we'll see how it all ends up shaking out there for Utah. But were you going to say something, Dane?
I was just going to say he's a stud. I mean, you felt like every time he touches the ball, you didn't know if he was going to break one loose. Pretty good with the ball too. Doesn't put it on the carpet a lot. I'm excited for him. Excited to see how he does.
Your point about putting it on the carpet, you ain't playing for Kyle Whittingham if you do, as we kind of saw with the Nate Johnson running. Nate Johnson, of course, quarterback, but we saw the running plays for Nate really get taken away because of the fumble and how Kyle does not want to put the ball in danger. So definitely going to be something to keep an eye on for the Utah football team. So many talented high school football players in the state of Utah, and Utah's done a good job bringing a lot of them up to Rice Eccles Stadium to play. But there's also some really talented basketball players in the state of Utah, and that's something Utah is able to find as well, because they're bringing up 2 guys from the state of Utah that are 2 of the best the state has to offer. And we're going to be breaking down their games and what Utah is gaining on the hardwood in one moment. But first, I want to talk to all of you about our friends at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Dane shifting to the hardwood. We just saw Jackson Johnson make it to the state championship game. Didn't win it this year. The soon-to-be Utah power forward, 6'8", 195, but did win a state title last year. And you also get a guy in David Katoa, too, at a big year at Layton, 6'4", 170. What did you think of each of their games and how they performed this season?
Yeah, I mean, we'll start with Jackson Johnson. I love Jackson's game. This is a young man. He shoots the 3 ball extremely confidently, can shoot it from anywhere on the floor, and can even shoot it extended out. One of Alta's favorite plays this year is Jackson Johnson late on the trail, and you get that late handoff, 5-6 feet beyond the arc, and he's able to hit that shot. He's got great versatility to it, not afraid to put it on the floor, plays really good defense, stands vertical. I think this is a young man. When he gets to college, they'll put a little bit of weight on him just to help him get a little bit stronger. But he's got a shot that is very difficult to defend. That shot comes off very high, and with his length, it's a difficult one. I think the thing for me with Jackson Johnson is he doesn't force himself on anyone. He recognizes, I mean, there were games this year where it's like early on, miss a couple shots. Great. I'm going to feed my other guys. And I'm going to get other guys involved. Very happy to fit his role on a team. And so I think he'll come into Utah with his skill set and can blend with that roster really, really well. I think he gives Craig Smith a really good perimeter shooter. David Katoa is just a flat out versatile guy. Can drive the ball extremely well, can shoot the ball extremely well. We did a game this year where they were playing Davis, and he hits the game-winning 3 with 8 seconds left. And I don't know if his heart rate ever got above a resting rate. Just plays very cool, calm, collected. He's a young man that's got experience playing broadly. Played at RSL Academy For those of you who don't know, it was a basketball program that was playing games nationally, going out and playing national competition, top 25 teams. David Katoa was one of their leading scorers there. Transferred back to Layton this year, wanted to go back home and help his hometown team. They ended up losing in the quarters, but David Katoa was one of their top scorers this year. Inside, outside game, can drive the lane really well, very quick athletically. I think he'll be a really fun guard to watch. Again, he's a player I think that you'll watch him get bigger at the next level. But that kid can do a little bit of everything. So I'm excited to see it. These are two really good players. Jackson Johnson, one of the top recruits in the state this year. So for Utah to get these two kids, I think speaks to the strength of what Coach Smith is trying to build there, that he's able to bring some high-profile kids, including a four-star like Jackson, up to the hill.
Yeah, Jackson Johnson coming up to Utah, second overall in the state on 24/7 Sports, to your point, 103rd nationally. Katoa in the top 252, so two really good gets for the Utah basketball team. And, there is just so much great talent in the state of Utah when it comes to high school football, basketball, and so many other sports as well. Dane, if people want to keep up with high school sports in Utah, where should they head over to?
You got to go to KSLSports.com. It's where KSL Sports Rewind lives. We cover more games than anyone else. I think we did 180 basketball games this year, JT. So that's just our basketball season. We got multiple streams every week for football. We've got weekly content videos to catch up on all the performances, recruiting news, team news, player news, all that. If you want the inside scoop, come on over to KSLSports.com, go to their high school coverage, and check out Dusty and myself as we keep you up to speed on all your favorite high school teams through every season of the year on KSLSports.com.
You guys do a tremendous job. I can never thank you guys enough for giving me my start as well. It was always great working and doing different games with you, Dane, and can't thank you enough for joining us once again on today's show.
My pleasure, JT. Thanks for having me. Great to see you, buddy.
That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Utes, but we'll be back with you tomorrow talking all things Utah football. We look forward to seeing you then.